Welcome back. I've got the faceplate off this Denon DRS-610. This is the one with the damaged screening. And I've been playing around with the laser trying to make a mask to replace this text because it bothers me. It might not bother some, but it does me. So I thought I'd just show you all kind of how I went about doing this and what the results are. The first thing I did was scan the face on the Epson widebed, and I'm only scanning the small section of text that I need, and I've got it pretty high resolution here, about 2400 dpi, or more correctly ppi. And I'm obviously going to try to duplicate the factory font. So here's the scan. You can see the damage up close there. I believe that was just sticker residue. And then I did a contrast mask on one of the channels and pulled out one word. I pulled out the word precision and uploaded it to what used to be my favorite site, which was What the Font. And it looks like they've gone over to the dark side along with an unnamed search engine. In other words, you can't find anything on here anymore. They just want to sell you something. So I just went in and traced the mask. That's the second one from the top. And then what I found, the third one here on the bottom, was just plain old Arial font with a little kerning. Over here on the laser now, this is a PVC masking film. I do realize you're not supposed to use PVC on a laser, but I've got this connected to the shop fume extraction, and I'm pulling out all of the harmful vapors at 600 or 700 CFM, and so I'm not worried about this little tiny bit here. I am not liking this spitting, and it wasn't actually doing this in my previous tests, so I'm not quite sure what's going on here. But I also didn't mask a piece of anodized aluminum initially, so it might be that. And that was actually a mistake. That was just the vector outline. What I'm going to do here is etch the raster and then go back and etch the vector. And that's a little thing I learned from a guy that I used to have do laser work for me. And that just sharpens up the lines a little bit in situations where you need it. And the trouble I've been having here, no matter what I try, isn't the laser work. That turns out fine, but once I apply the transfer tape to this, it's unable to lift the counter island, the little parts of the letters that are enclosed. It just won't stick to it. It doesn't have the ability to pull it off. And I've tried all kinds of different tapes. Not just transfer tape, but I've even tried, high-tack green tapes. And so, no matter what I did, it won't do it that way. So what I'm faced with is putting the faceplate in the laser with the mask on top of it, and cutting the mask right on the faceplate. So that's why I'm working on this little black anodized card at this point. And I've got the engraving dialed in pretty well. Like I say, the problem I'm having is transferring the mask to the face plate. So this is just very, very light coats of some etching primer. And then I just follow up with regular white Krylon. The one problem I'm aware of is I know that this mask is not suitable entirely for solvent-based paints. And, you know, right this minute, I'm just using what I have here without buying anything. And so I'm trying to just kind of fog this and not have it affect too much this mask. But I'm actually not having a lot of success doing it. I would either have to get some waterborne spray paint, which will be difficult because of the color. This isn't white. It's kind of an off-white with a little yellow tint to it. And so the chances are pretty good I can find the right color in a conventional spray can, but you know, trying to find something waterborne in the right color, in the right shade, is a pretty daunting task, and I really don't want to have a custom paint made for this. This wasn't quite dry, so I set it out in the sun for actually a couple of hours. It took longer than I thought it would. There's a point on doing this sort of thing, pinstripe. I just do pinstriping, automotive pinstriping, and there was a point at which the paint had flashed off, and then right about that moment or close to it, it was the right time to peel the striping tape. It didn't work well being completely dry, and of course if it was too wet then you got strings and so forth. So I actually have some experience doing this on a much larger scale. This is about as small as I think I could ever deal with. But so I'm just kind of trying to find that point, and you know, I play with it. It's still printing here. It feels dry, but it's still printing. And this is close to the point that it should weed well. And so, you know, it's a trial and error. I'm not familiar with spray can striping. I've never done it. I was familiar with the acrylic enamel and acrylic lacquers that we used to use. I don't know what, close to 50 years ago, 40 something years ago. I'll just get this weeded quickly. Fast forward through it. It's going okay because this is masking material, and it's meant to do that, but I'm not getting the sharp lines that I'm expecting. But it does weed well. This would probably be helpful to do this under the microscope, or maybe put some greater magnification on than what I'm wearing. But it goes pretty well on this. All right, let's peel the mask off, see what I've got. Remember, that top one is incorrect. It would be the bottom. Like I missed one. This is also the anodizing on this card is much thinner than what will be on the faceplate, and also the faceplate has a brushed texture on it. So this isn't exactly what I'm dealing with, but it's something. It's close. it doesn't look bad. I'm not 100% happy with it. It's not as sharp. The laser work is as sharp, but the transfer isn't as sharp as, you know, what I'd like it to be. But those are all things I can work with. I just, you know, there's a limited amount of time to deal with this. And it's not wasted time. I'm learning the machine. I'm learning what the limitations are of the process. Now, if this were 1 or 2 point larger font, it would be no problem at all. I think it would transfer fine. I think the transfer tape would work correctly, but this size is quite challenging. Still, I'm learning a lot, and it will come in handy for something in the future. I'm sure of that. Okay, I expected a little bit better than that. I had made other tests on other material, not anodized aluminum, and it did pull everything off really well. But still, this material is so easy to remove that it's not a problem. Let's just fast forward through this part, and then we'll see what it looks like on the faceplate. Okay, not bad, not perfect, but not bad, especially for a trial run. You grab the faceplate, so from, you know, a couple of feet away, it doesn't look bad, but yeah, under magnification, when you look at it closely, it's got some ragged edges. For the following test, I used 3 different types of tapes. A polyurethane tape, a green high-tack tape, and then the blue low-tack tape on the bottom. And the laser settings are dialed in. I'm happy with those. I'm comfortable with them. And now I just need to find the right mask material to do the job. You'll see that none of these materials weed as easily as the dedicated mask material. This green tape here in the middle was particularly troublesome. Even when I got the counter out, it still left tape residue. Now the blue tape down here, it comes out pretty well, and it doesn't leave any residue. So that's encouraging. The problem with these tapes I'm finding, even though they actually work pretty well, they've got a texture to them, whereas the masking film is smooth, and that texture in the end ends up causing problems. But I actually like the sharpness that I'm getting with this thin, low-tack blue tape. Now, I know it's pretty popular with laser guys for positioning material. I don't know that they use it as much for this type of work. It also, even though the blue tape gives a sharper text, it doesn't peel very well at all. It just doesn't have the strength to pull everything out the way the dedicated masking material does. But I'm experimenting here, and as I said, I'm just using what I have here available to me in the shop. But that actually looks pretty good. That's got a crisp line to it. There's good separation. It doesn't look bold like the others do. All right, so I did the masking, or did the weeding off camera. We'll peel these other two tapes off and see what kind of results I get. The peel direction is important too, and the peel angle is very important. You can see this green tape is just not working out at all. And it wasn't because of insufficient penetration of the laser. It did cut into that anodizing, the tiny amount that I was looking for. Or burn into it is a better term. But yeah, that didn't work. And it was a pain to deal with anyway. So here's a typical polyurethane tape. This is smooth, but it is thicker, and so it will be harder to get paint in the crevices and so forth, but it's not bad. And obviously it has the strength to peel well, so that's a possibility. Come on. I did not give this paint sufficient time to dry. This should have been another maybe half hour to an hour. But still, it's not bad. It's promising. But those two, the polyurethane and the blue tape, both I think turned out better than the dedicated masking film. And again, I'm convinced it's not the film itself. It's just that the paint, the solvent-based paint, was the problem with that. So let's compare these. You can see those are starting to look much closer to the actual screening. So before I started messing about with the laser mask, I had uploaded the file to a UV ink printing company, and I had tried to find the one I'd used in the past, but their website was down and wasn't redirected, and so I guess they were bought out by somebody else. And I ran across this company, Ninja Transfers. I had uploaded the file to their website at about midnight, and by the time I got up the next morning, I had confirmation of a printing schedule and shipping schedule, and this took something like 4 or 5 days to get to me. Just phenomenal service. Not a sponsor, I just found them. But yeah, you get a company like this and you want to give them kudos. And the instructions I gave them were to not resample or resize the artwork. Those are just some stickers they sent. Instructions. Nicely done. Some of their swag. And they even sent an applicator. But the instructions I gave them were in the notes to not resample or resize the artwork, because I need this exact length to be correct on the faceplate, and also included the length, the actual measurement on the file, on the artwork. Yeah, I've dealt with this before, and sometimes, you know, they'll, if it's like a 4x5 sheet or something like that, you've seen this, you'll see it in when you send prints in, and they'll stretch the print to fit the paper, and I just wanted to make sure that they wouldn't do that. So let's check them out here and see how they did. So 3-inch 135 is exactly what I needed. You know, 3-inch 135, 140 is where it turned out. So you're seeing a little bit of parallax there, but it was spot on. So again, I got these in 4 or 5 days. The cost of this transfer was a couple of bucks. It was more for shipping and tax, you know, than the cost of the product. And it looks really good. It's a little bit bold, which is just a printing process, and I don't know that I could correct that and make it look right. I think some of the lines might kind of get lost if I tried to thin that out a little bit. But overall, it looks really good. Let's just transfer it to a piece of black here and see what it looks like against the faceplate. Some IPA with a Kim wipe. And blow it off with compressed air. That's the peel line. I should really be doing this on the hard surface, not on the cork. but I'll get it started here. You know, I've been looking at buying my own UV printer. I do a fair amount of this type of work, and you know, I mean, for a desktop model, they're not horribly expensive, but gosh, when you've got a company like this, you know, why bother? Just send it to them, wait 4 or 5 days, and go with it. They can do it's full color, so you know, I could get a color match on this text and give them the file and the color match and the spot color, whatever, and they'll be able to get that spot on, apparently. So there's the process. Looks like it lifted that T a little bit. I caught it a little bit too late trying to put it back on, but that's not a problem. I've got quite a few of these. You can put those back on if you don't stretch the tape. You catch them quickly. So that's the easy way, but as you'll see here in a minute, it's not the best way. It's good, sharp, clean. It's too bold, and there are remnants of the clear background, and you won't see them on camera. I can see them clearly, and it's just you know, it's like a pillow block surrounding everything of clear ink. And you know, in almost every situation it would be fine. There's the missing T, part of the T. But in this situation, I'm not happy with it. I actually like my laser work better than this. If this were slightly larger, if it were the logo, if it were the Denon logo or the model, I think it would be probably fine. Okay, so it's not bad. You know, the upshot of it is the size is perfect. You know, they did a great job on it. I just don't think this is the way I'll end up going. Try to get you to see what I can see up close. See, it's just a little pillow blocky looking, and that's the process. That won't ever change. I think this one looks better. Let me cut that off so I can get it up close. I prefer this. Let me know what you guys think. If this were your deck, what would you want? Leave it? Not mess with it? See, it's just like I say, it's just a little bit pillowy. So there's that, and then let's look at the other one I thought looked okay. Cut that off of there. Yeah, see, I just think that looks more authentic. the color's not a problem. I'm sure I could, even if I had to mix up some paint and color match it and then airbrush it on, that would be fine. But I'll bet I can find a really close color to this in a standard rattle can. Now the other option is go with a different color altogether, and that was my first thought. You know, don't try to match it, because when you do, sometimes it looks like you tried and missed. So my first thought was to use a gold paint on that, but I think it would clash with the tray text below it, which is kind of a copper color. And so I'm undecided on that. I mean, that would be ideal if I could use a different color altogether. Then it wouldn't look like I tried to match it and missed. So there again, let me know what you think might be a complementary color to that. I'm kind of lost, and I do this stuff all the time. So this one is the last one I did with the blue tape. Again, trying this time to fog the coats on much lighter and give drying time in between. And then just because it was so late, I let this one dry overnight, and you can see how much more difficult it is to deal with when the paint's super dry. But out of all of them, I ended up liking the crispness of the blue tape mask, and so I thought I'd give it one more shot before I gave up on it. Ideally, I would be able to find some sort of high resolution transfer film that's compatible with solvent-based paints. That would be the ideal thing. I haven't looked yet. You know, like I said, I was just trying to use what I had in the shop already. But here's the problem with the blue tape, is it's just not strong enough to peel correctly. And like I say, it's got that weird fiber texture in it, and there's a risk that they will get into the text and, you know, ruin it. Well, I just need to keep playing with this and see if I can find something better. And you can see how now the full drying overnight does not look as sharp and as crisp as catching it, you know, within an hour, maybe 2 hours, depending on the thickness of when it starts to flash off. This is not even close to as good as the other sample. It was done exactly the same way, but caught at the right time. I'll just leave it like that. I already know this isn't going to look right. And get you zoomed in here. Okay, so there's my trials and tribulations with trying to replace the text. I am still working on it, but I've got other things to do right this minute. So if you guys have any knowledge of this or suggestions, I'm all ears. Send them in. And thank you once again for watching. I hope you enjoyed it.